Welcome, Mark Scheinken.
Thank you. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay, cool. So yes, I'm Mark Schenken. I'm the Director of Member Marketing, which, as Steve pointed out, basically means I run email marketing for Ritz-Carlton Rewards, Marriott Rewards, for Marriott. And before that, I was at AOL for about 13 years, so I kind of did that tour of duty back when email was pretty nascent. I imagine most of you have heard of Marriott. You've probably heard we have this little merger going on with Starwood. Yeah, so it's been good, busy, kind of crazy, exciting. So now Marriott is the largest hotel company in the world. We have 5,500 hotels across 30 brands in 110 countries. So there's definitely a lot to do. Just out of curiosity, how many in the room are members of Marriott Rewards, Ritz-Carlton Rewards, SPG? How many are elite? Well, thank you for your loyal membership. And we appreciate your business, and we're going to keep it up. So let me start with a little music metaphor. So imagine that I am the email marketing channel and playing the trombone, I think it is. And I'm playing the heck out of this trombone. I've got high open rates, high click-through rates, high revenue per email delivered, low unsubscribes, high deliverability. I am playing some fabulous music in email marketing with my trombone, and it's great. But down the hall from me, somebody I don't know that well is managing our mobile channel. And they have their own technology platform, their own team, and they are playing the heck out of that violin. And they're playing their own rhythm, their own key, their own song. They're playing it well, and it's doing very well, but it's totally different from what I'm playing. And down the hall from us is what is that, a cello? Viola? I really should have studied my cello. Excellent. This is why we're with a group of experts. Right. So we got these guys playing the cello in social media. And our social media channel's doing great. But again, they're in their own key, their own rhythm, and in many respects, they're playing their own song. And this, I think, represents siloed global marketing, as many of you are experiencing it. And I've heard from both from the presentations earlier today and from anecdotes that this is a very typical situation for a large matrixed marketing organization. And what we really are missing is this guy, the dude at the front, the conductor with the baton, who's getting everybody to play in the same key, in the same rhythm, and ultimately the same song. And that's what has been missing from large marketing organizations like ours, and where this project that we've been working on is starting to bring this conductor into the mix so that we can all kind of get on the same page. So, like a lot of you, and earlier presentations pointed out similar stories. We're sending over 1 billion outbound messages every year, and I'm only one part of it. So even though I'm running email marketing and I'm probably sending 800 or 900 or 1 billion messages to our members, that's just one little piece. There's a bunch of other emails that are going out, like transactional emails, when you make a reservation or a booking or cancel. There's mobile push notifications, so when your room is ready, or you can check in using the mobile app, you're getting those notifications. So there's a bunch of emails that are going out both before, during, and after the stay. There's a bunch of push notifications that are going out before and during the stay. And then there's web placements that are happening. And all of this is in a relatively, or I should say has been or had been, in a relatively uncoordinated manner. And we built each one of these channels by necessity or invention. Like a lot of you have pointed out, 10 years ago, we were mostly doing print. And then we added email. So we built an email team, we built email technology and email processes to send out billions of marketing emails. Then 5 years ago, mobile came around, and we built a mobile team with a platform and technology and processes to do mobile messaging. And 3 years ago, social came around, and we built a social team with technology and processes. And all of these were set up independently. They were built one notch at a time. And at no point did we ever kind of step back and say, we need to integrate and coordinate this across channels. And what we end up with is a cacophony, to take our musical metaphor to its extension. A cacophony, a harsh, discordant mixture of sounds. And I guess I would say that a few years ago, members or guests might have been forgiving, or maybe wouldn't have even noticed the fact that we were all playing different songs in different keys, in different rhythms. But I tell you what, they're starting to notice now, and their patience is growing thin. And the more we continue to play different songs at different times and bombard our members with inefficient and sometimes competing messages, the worse it will be. And so what we need to do, like a lot of marketing organizations, is move from an old world of pushing people what we wanted them to know, batch and blast, to giving people what they're actually looking for. So this is a pretty standard digital marketing maturity model. So like I said, a few years ago, we were doing mostly default marketing. This is batch and blast, like the panel said, batch and blast. There's a time and a place, but we're generally trying to move away from this universe. As we move forward, we move towards more segment-driven marketing. Now, segment-driven marketing is good. What we did at Marriott was we identified several high-value segments of our best guests, our most valuable guests, and we put them together into like groups, and we marketed to them in very specific ways. That's good, except our high-value guests were a group of 1 million people here or 1 million people there. So that's a step in the right direction, but we're still grouping 1 million individuals into one segment and treating them all the same way. So better, but not all the way that we want to be. Where we should be moving to in the very near future, or where we are starting to get to, is this real-time contextual marketing, where we're giving people what they're looking for. And in this case, we're doing more one-to-one personalized messaging, which is really what my group is about. I mean, there's a reason why my title is Director of Member Marketing and not Email Marketing. We used to have an email marketing department, but by saying we're member marketing, that sends a signal to the organization that we're more than just one channel. And when we get to the future state of that anticipatory type of experience where we're predicting what people are going to be interested in and then pushing that notification or that message to them before they even know they want it, that's the future of where we want to get to. And the good news is that if we do this right, it will work. Generally speaking, companies that do customer experience well generate more revenue, duh. But this Forrester Research study pointed out that this customer experience that we're talking about extends beyond just what they see and do in an individual hotel. We're also talking about the marketing experience that we're sending them through these different channels. And so when we create a consistent experience holistically across different marketing touch points, that's that user experience that we want to optimize, and that's what will lead to growing revenue. And at the end of the day, you know, we are in the business of putting heads in beds, and so we recognize that this customer experience is a key way to drive those bookings and room nights. So let me give you sort of a real-world example of how we did this. You know, a lot of the things that we've been talking about at sessions like this tend to be theoretical, like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Well, here's an example where we actually did it and it really worked. So first, let me just give you a little bit of the lay of the land for our marketing ecosystem. Across the top, we have our channels. And this should be pretty standard for just about any of you. Paid channels like search or social or display. We have owned channels like mine, like email, but also Marriott.com, push notifications, even some SMS messages. And then we have some earned channels. And along the bottom, we have all the data that we could possibly want to put into a message. So we have member profiles, which basically is where are they staying, what are they doing, and what do we know about those members and guests. We have their communication preferences. So are they opted in to different channels, and are we allowed to communicate to them in different channels? We have content, which we are curating and developing on our own or through our vendors or third parties. And then we have a ton of hotel content. So we have the hotels themselves, we have rates, we have inventory, we have offers all the way down to free parking at a TownePlace Suites in Des Moines. So all that content is pulling into a decisioning layer, and that decisioning layer is really the key, because the decisioning points to orchestration, and orchestration is deciding who sees what message in what channel at what time. And so this moves away from that siloed world where all those channels would be firing messages at the same time, some cases inconsistently, in most cases competitively. And so by orchestrating this across channel, we're optimizing the experience for the consumer across their interactions with Marriott. And while we're doing this, that arrow along the right side shows that we constantly have to be listening and measuring and optimizing everything we do across this entire ecosystem. So now, let me give you, and by the way, I should just say that when we do this right, to take our music analogy all the way, this would be a symphony. And the symphony is, in blue, you'll see a composition of different elements. That's the key here. There's going to be differences, and channels are going to operate differently, and that's okay. But if they're composed into a symphony, and we all are playing the same rhythm, same key, same pitch, same song, then it's going to sound like beautiful music. So now let me give you a real-world example. So we have an abandoned search campaign it's a retargeting trigger. We don't have a cart. So there is no abandoned cart for us. So this is abandoned browse, abandoned search. And the way it works is we have two different versions of this communication. One is for members who have a destination intent. So in this case, a member is searching for several hotels in Seattle, and then they don't book. So what they get from me is an email that says, this is a basic retargeting trigger email. Here's your retargeting email. I'm at points2marriott.com, and that tries to get them to go and book. Then we also have a version for a customer with hotel intent. So this is somebody who views 3 or more pages on a single hotel website. So now we really know exactly where they want to go. And in this case, again, we send them a retargeting email if they don't book, and the email points2marriott.com, and then they book. And this is good. I would say there's nothing wrong with this, the way we're doing it, but it could be a lot better. For example, one of the things that's suboptimal about it is that it's only an email. So what if you're not opted into email? What if you don't open your emails? What if you're ignoring your email that week? What if you're on vacation? Well, so then you missed this whole retargeting trigger. And meanwhile, at the same time, this is performing really well. High open rate, high click-to-open rate, a lot of incremental revenue. So this is good, but the fact that it is only in one channel is a really limiting factor for us. So what we did as part of this orchestration project was take the abandoned search email and make it multi-channel in an orchestrated, coordinated way. Now, this is pretty cool. Okay, here's abandoned search in a multi-channel environment. The member starts off on Marriott.com. They view a few pages on Marriott.com, and then they switch to the app. Now, in the old world, we would have no way of knowing that this happened, and there would be no way to coordinate our messaging as somebody moved from .com over to a mobile experience. But if they use the app and they browse for hotels, and then they decide to make a booking, and if they don't book, then we send them a retargeting push notification. And the push notification drives them to the app where they can search and then actually make the booking complete. So I know this might not sound super sexy, but we were really jazzed about this because this was the first time that we could look across channel. And it could go either way. So if a member started on the mobile app and then finished their search on Marriott.com, we send them an email. If they start on .com and finish on the mobile app, we send them a push. If they're not opted into email, we send them a push. If they don't have the app, we send them an email. The whole point is that these two channels were now operating together under the same platform, the same technology, and with processes in place to make sure that we were doing it in a cohesive, customer-focused way. So this was great. This was huge. And by the way, was it working? Of course it was working. When we started doing this, just our email results alone went way up. So open rates went up, click-through rate, click-to-open rate all went up. And yes, I can't tell you how much revenue, but there was a substantial increase in incremental revenue that definitely had us excited. The other thing that was kind of interesting about this email was that this one got multiple opens per opener. I don't know about you guys, but most of the emails that I send get 1 open per opener. Somebody opens it and they either click and book or they open and then discard. But this email was getting about 2.1, 2.2 opens per opener, and that was really interesting to us. Because what it seems like they were doing is they open the email maybe right after they abandon the search, because we send the retargeting trigger 60 minutes after they abandon. So they open the email like, I'm not ready yet, but they save it. And then they go back at night, and they open it back up, and they use it as a portal to go and book. So this is really interesting and cool for us. So,
Can you take questions from the floor, or is that against the rules?
well, I was going to take questions at the end, but if you got one, fire it up.
Well, because we're finding... Hold on.
Oh.
No, it's not against the rules, but we can't hear you across the nation if you're just yelling. Who is this? Where are you? Okay. Let me know who you are and where you're from.
Right. Shipley Munson, Family Search International, headquartered in Salt Lake City, Utah. So, local favorite son here. We find that 74% of our emails are opened on the device, on the phone in particular. But we find that about 68% of our transactions finish on the website.
Yep.
And average opens per transaction is 3.2. Is that similar to your experience?
Well, you have a lot more opens per opener than we do, but
It's complicated stuff.
But the experience is definitely the same. We're finding that the majority, and we just kind of recently crossed that 50-50 threshold. We just recently went to over 50% of our opens were on a mobile device, but clicking and booking on an app is generally not as simple or as useful a customer experience as doing it on the web. And so I think what we're finding is, you can, if you want to bring the microphone back, I think he wants to follow up. But so anyway, so we are finding that more of our opens are coming on mobile, but more of our bookings are coming on desktop. And I expect that to start to shift, but we're not there yet.
So I only approve creative when it's presented on a mobile screen.
Us too. Yep, because we know that that's the majority. The majority of people who are opening our emails are doing so on their mobile device, and so it needs to be optimized for mobile. Let's see. Okay, and then by the way, just kind of dovetailing back to what we were doing with our abandoned search campaign, you can't just launch the campaign and say we're good. We have a very detailed measurement, test, and learn plan that has identified 11 other opportunities to optimize this campaign and drive even more revenue. Now, I can't tell you how much revenue, but it's a big number, and we're very excited about these opportunities. So part of the strategy for how we pulled this together was not just to build and launch programs, but to optimize them so that they can continue to drive incremental opportunity as they evolve. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how we approach this from a strategic sense. Like, just how do we make sense of this universe and get a big, grown-up, mature marketing organization to rally around it? So where do we go? Hit it. 2, 3. Okay. This whole process, this whole program is really about melding people, process, and technology. So I would say more often than not, organizations like ours, when we want to make a change, we start with the technology. And we make a big technology investment, and we say, okay, everybody, we're now on this piece of technology. And the rest of the organization goes, what? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. So we did make a substantial technology investment to kind of start this. But then we immediately moved to how do we get the people and the processes around this new technology to make sure that we were going to be using it in the right way. And that was a key. You know, and I would just speak personally from my own experience and my own team. You know, one of the things that this involved was kind of stepping outside of our comfort zone, stepping outside of our silo. We were managing a very strong and successful email marketing program, but we knew in order to evolve, we had to step outside that box and start thinking about other channels and how we interact with those channels. And actually, I would say, just from like a career development standpoint, I think this is really good, not just for me, but for the folks on my team who get to cross-train on other channels and take some of the experience that they have as subject matter experts in email and apply it to other channels. So I think it's good for your teams as well as your business. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about how we did this. So we had a strategy to create an always-on, customer-centric, omni-channel marketing framework, and it took 5 steps. So the first step was really just to see where we were, assess the current state. And this was involved. We have had hundreds of marketing touch points across the organization. Some were in email, some were in digital, some were in push, some were in social. And really just starting by cataloging all this was a fairly Herculean task because, as you can probably imagine, these people didn't all work together, and we really had no idea what was going on in these other channels. So first, just making sense of it all and cataloging it was a key step. Then we wanted to make sure that we aligned around customer states, customer needs. And so I want to talk about these 4 cycles in a little bit more detail. I'm sure we all have business cycles, and hospitality is no different. So in our world, we have a guest life cycle, and that's pretty simple. It's somebody who's a prospect, shopping, booking, they're on property, they check out, and then they're post-stay. That's your standard guest, well, I should say, just thinking about a guest in their interactions with Marriott, they're a prospect, they stay with us, they're loyal to us, and then their loyalty starts to decline. Very similar for the loyalty cycle, which is really the same exact cycle, except just for members. Marriott Rewards, Ritz-Carlton Rewards, SPG members. And that's, again, you know, they're a loyalty prospect, they're a new member, they're a growing member, they're established, they're elite, and then there's a decline. There's also the trip cycle, which is consider, shop, book, stay, post-stay, and then that cycle reverses back again as you go through your different stays with different Marriott hotels. But then I also want to talk about life stage. Life stage is one that we hadn't previously spent a lot of time considering. Life stage was really interesting to us because life stage has a big impact on your travel booking behavior. So did you just get a job at Deloitte where you're going to be consulting and spending 100 nights a year on the road? Well, I should be marketing to you really differently based on that information because your lifetime value just went through the roof for me. But also think about other life stages. You get married, you have a kid. Now, Orlando is your number one source. Orlando is your number one target market instead of, say, Aruba. Retiring, getting divorced, getting a new job. Any of these events in your life could change and probably will change your travel pattern. So the more we understand people's life stage, we can apply it to the rest of these other life cycles and identify very clear need states for the guest. Then we looked at the programs or the touch points that we had, and we mapped them against those stages, and here's what we found. We found that we had some of those very key stages with no marketing programs against them. And so that was eye-opening for us just to say, we're not hitting all the buttons that we need to be hitting. So as part of this process, we did a big brainstorming exercise to come up with new marketing programs to address those need states that weren't being addressed. And the same was true for our MBOs, our major business objectives, that there were some MBOs that we had that we didn't have marketing programs against, or that we only had a few. And so it was important for us to use this opportunity to start to clue in on some of those key need states and key MBOs and apply new marketing programs against them. And then we created this huge list. So we had hundreds of these marketing touch points, and we had to prioritize them because we realized that it was going to be too much to do. So we got it from 173 down to about 20 that we really went deep on. And those 20 when we went really deep on each one of those 20, we created sort of good, better, and best versions of each one of them, and a big test and learn plan, a measurement and reporting plan, and we ended up with, and I'm not joking here, a 400-page document that cataloged these 20 programs and how we were going to go really deep into each one. So now I want to take you from the real world to something that's a little bit more hypothetical, but it's still going to be using this same framework. So as I often say, my orchestration presentations always have spinning wheels, so here come the spinning wheels. So imagine those cycles that I just mentioned, and they are constantly in motion as guests, members, and people move through their life stages and also through their interactions with Marriott. And these are constantly spinning as all of us go through our daily lives and the way we interact with any company that we're interacting with. And the key for us was identifying those moments when the wheels intersect. And that identified for us like, ooh, here's a key moment where we could really be doing something different for this guest, for this member, because something intersected between, say, their life stage, their guest cycle, their loyalty cycle, and so on. So I'm going to use our Happy Birthday program as an example. Everybody has a birthday. Birthdays are generally happy occasions, and so birthdays are generally good news. But the way we were operating our birthday program in the past was that it was just an email. And just let me back up for a second. The way our Happy Birthday program had worked was if we knew it was your birthday, and you were a member, and you were opted into email, and today is your birthday, you get an email from me. And it says, happy birthday, click here to get a gift, and you click through, and what you get is an Elite Night credit. So an Elite Night credit might not sound like much, but let's say you're at 9 nights with Marriott Rewards. An Elite Night credit will get you to 10, and now you're Silver Elite. So this is not nothing. It's okay. It's pretty good. And the thing about this email was that it was performing very, very well, as emails go. It had an extremely high open rate, an extremely high click-through rate, and members were generally satisfied with this experience. But the problem, as I mentioned earlier, is that this was only an email. So what if you're not opted into email? What if you don't open the email? Then you're not going to get this gift. The other thing about this, too, is it was one size fits all. So yes, an Elite Night credit is a nice thing to have, but what if you're Platinum? If you're a Platinum member, you're already at the top of the Elite food chain, and the Elite Night credit is useless to you. So now for our Platinum members, our most valuable guests, we're sending them something that has no value to them. So, okay, this could definitely be improved, and that's why we did these sort of good, better, best versions of each one of these marketing programs to say, okay, good is where we are today, we want to get better, and then best is utopia. And what we ended up with, you don't need to follow this, but I'll just kind of walk you through it. What we ended up with is this workflow of what a happy birthday program could be. I like to say, this is happy birthday on amphetamines, if we can really blow it out. So the first thing we should be doing is starting off about a month before your birthday and saying, hey, when your birthday is coming up, We want to make sure you have an opportunity to think about spending your birthday at a Marriott hotel. And then if you don't take action on that, maybe 15 days before your birthday, we'll hit you again, this time not just in email, but in other channels, to suggest that perhaps you celebrate your birthday at one of our bars or restaurants. So not necessarily associated with a room night, but just to get you on property around your birthday. Then as we get closer to the birthday itself, now we can start doing some of the messaging that I've talked about previously, like an email on your birthday, or a push notification, or something on Marriott.com. But now think about what this could be on property. Imagine you walk into a hotel on your birthday. So the front desk associate really ought to know that and ought to be able to say, hey, Mr. Jones, it's your birthday. Have a drink on us at the bar. And he slips you a coupon. Or when you log on to the in-room Wi-Fi in your room, it should say, happy birthday. When you turn on your in-room TV, it should say, happy birthday. There are so many things we could do with just knowing what your birthday is. Oh, and by the way, let's just also talk for a little bit about the fact that we don't know everybody's birthday. We only know birthday data for the people who've given it to us. This isn't like, I was thinking about, my ATM, Wells Fargo, my birthday month, when I go to take out cash, will say, happy birthday, Mark. That's great, but I had to give them my birthday in order to open up a bank account. You don't need to give us your birthday information to open up a Marriott Rewards account. So the one thing we want to do here is make sure that we're getting more people's birthday data and ensuring that that data is accurate. Because the other thing is that a disproportionate number of members have a January 1st birthday. So that suggests that some people just went 111 when they plugged it into our data. And so we're sending out a lot of happy birthday messages on January 1st, but it really shouldn't be that way. So we recognize that there are some issues with this, and we could take it a lot further. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is just how we structured ourselves to get the work done. This is about the people in the process and the technology. So the one thing to note here is that we were really cautious and careful not to make this an HR boxology exercise where we had to do a reorg, because, let's be honest, we've all been there, but if we had to do a reorg for this, this would have taken an awful lot longer. So we didn't do a reorg. We really just clarified functions for different people in different channels so that they would understand what their roles were within this orchestrated universe. So again, like I said, we didn't change people's jobs. We just identified functions that they would play within this omni-channel universe. And that allowed us to do it much more quickly without involving HR, which is good. And then using that function, or using those functions to identify a detailed RACI, and then communicating this out to the different teams that would be impacted. So I think in general, this was faster to execute than it would have been if we kind of went through the more standard change management process. So I know we're a little up on time, so just to sort of wrap up quickly, you might not believe it, but this really only took us about 6 months. We started in earnest in February, and we were up and running in August. So this doesn't have to take forever. And I think some of the ways that we took shortcuts helped us to get there quickly. I mean, one of the things that really made this smooth for us is that we started off with like-minded channels that really wanted to do this. Not all marketing channels are jazzed about playing in each other's sandboxes and letting other people come in and mess up with their stuff. So we started with email and mobile and Marriott.com, which were channels that we knew agreed with this approach, saw benefit to it, and were willing to invest time, money, and resources to operate in an omni-channel way. So to review the steps that we took, first, just assess your current state, and that's going to be harder than you think, because there's all kinds of things going on in your organization that you don't know about. So you want to start by just figuring out where you are. Then, aligning MBOs. Aligning MBOs is a little bit of a trick for us, because at its core, this was a cooperation between the loyalty and digital organizations at Marriott, and even though we were all in the business of putting heads in beds, we had very different ways of going about it. Our digital organization is a direct booking channel. Win the booking, heads in beds. The loyalty organization that I work for is about creating lifetime value, creating guests for life. And so even though these both are designed to result in putting heads in beds, we have very different approaches, very different KPIs, very different goals. So just getting those two organizations to think similarly and to agree was a big step for us. Then we do this program assignment by MBO and also by customer need state, and we look for where those are obvious gaps. And then also, I really do encourage this good, better, best approach. Another way to think about it is crawl, walk, run. So good is where you are today, better is one step better, best is utopia. And you're probably not going to get to best and that's okay. The thing I love about having a best version, a utopia version, is that it's your North Star. And it tells you, this is where you want to go. You're probably never going to get there. But at least if you have that point in the sky in mind, you know which direction you're supposed to be heading in. And then remember, too, this is about functions, not about an HR reorg, and I think that's a big reason why this moves so quickly. And then last but not least, try, stumble, figure it out. There were definitely places along the way where this did not go the way we wanted it to. Frankly, anytime we involve IT, it's going to take longer and be harder, and you all know, because you're laughing, you're all in the same boat. So you just got to work your way through it, and I think having senior leadership invested in this for us made this okay, made it palatable that we weren't going to change the universe in 5 minutes. But we did change it pretty quickly, and at a big, mature marketing organization like Marriott, it's a little bit like steering the Titanic, so the fact that we were able to do it in less than 6 months is a pretty substantial accomplishment. So I don't know how much time we have left, but I
want to make, I don't mind if we start roundtables a little late this morning if we make sure we have room for questions, because this was a great presentation. Thanks, by the way. Thanks to Mark.
Sure.
There's a lot of detail in there, and Mark will be around, but does anybody have any questions? Let's get, do we have a mic right back here?
Okay, hold on. Where are you pointing, Steve?
Right there, hands up, right
All
there.
right. Oh, Blake. I know Blake.
Blake Miller with Salesforce. Quick question. Looking at the individual, like myself as a Marriott member, have two kind of personalities, the pleasure side and the business side. Are you able to determine different behavior, like if it's coming through a Concur or kind of a travel agent booking versus an individual Orlando kind of vacation travel?
Yeah, and we have some great technology, or I should say marketing intelligence resources that have helped us try to pinpoint leisure versus business. And I will tell you, really most of my focus is on leisure, because we sort of feel like business bookings are going to happen, whether we market them or not. And we have very little control over people's business bookings. So you're going to go where your boss tells you to go, and you're going to stay where you can get the best rate or whatever's closest to the client that you're meeting with. So we don't have a ton of control over people's business behavior, but leisure behavior we can definitely influence. And so some of it is we have some algorithms in our database that tries to identify what a leisure booking looks like, but also it's not rocket science. Like Friday and Saturday nights tend to be leisure. Sunday through Thursday tend to be business. So just because we know some of these factors, or certainly there are certain hotel types that tend to be more leisure-based. So the Orlando JW Grand Lakes tends to be more of a leisure booking property. So just this type of information helps us pinpoint those questions.
Right here?
Hi, my name is Shilpi Talwar, and I work at Shop at Home, managing their CRM program out of Denver. My question is, with Airbnb being so big, how does that competition affect your planning for good, better, best? Because I'm thinking that there are people who probably don't go stay at hotels as much as they used to, and now they are doing Airbnb. They don't really have too much of a loyalty program yet. Like, how does that affect you?
Well, I think a big part of you probably answered your own question. One of the big ways that we compete against Airbnb is with our loyalty program. And so the loyalty programs, I think, are a key way for us to differentiate from an Airbnb experience. In addition, I mean, look, nothing against Airbnb, but one of the things that we're selling is consistency and customer service and knowing what you're going to get. When you get an Airbnb booking, sometimes you don't have those things. You don't have a consistent experience. You're not sure what you're going to get. So what we're able to offer is that consistency and predictability, that customer service, especially at brands like the Ritz-Carlton, where the customer service is going to be extraordinary, just like it is here at Stein Eriksen. And also the loyalty program. So using the levers of loyalty, so being able to earn points, to be able to redeem not just for hotel stays, but for airline miles, for merchandise, for experiences, is a compelling value play for us to compete against Airbnb.
Mark Schenken, thank you very much. This was great stuff. Really appreciate it. Thank you.